Welcome to the Millennial Body Image Project, where we dive into the unique and messy body image journey that continues to shape our generation.
We're here to flip the script on toxic wellness culture, challenge weight stigma, and tackle the intersectional forces that shape how we see our bodies and our health.
Because your body is not a problem to be fixed. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Mini pep talk.
Mini pep talk episode because everybody's going to have a bad body image day in the summer at some point. So we wanted
If you haven't already, it's unfortunately probably coming for you at some point or another.
Yeah, and it's better to be prepared than unprepared, we always say. So what we wanted to do today was bring this mini pep talk on the heels of our last episode where you heard us talk about how summer bodies are a scam, which is great and all, but that sometimes is not enough when you're in the throes of it and you're making plans to change your body and you're just deep in the spiral and you don't know what to do about it. And when you're there, that's what this episode is for today.
Obviously, because you can listen to that last episode, but that's logic, right? And we can't always come out of a bad body image day through logic. We can have it, right, and remind ourselves of the logic of things, but this is a bad body image day is highly emotional, and it is something that can happen. And also too, one of the things that we were talking about as well is that you're most likely going to feel like this is even harder during different phases of your cycle too. So you might find maybe every 3 weeks you have a little moment and that might honestly align with your luteal phase. So just keep that in mind. But I think the truth is that I think it's unreasonable and unrealistic to think that you're not going to have some kind of urge at any point to overhaul your body, whether it's before a vacation, whether it's about, oh my God, can I even wear these shorts or not? Or if you find yourself kind of Googling or thinking to yourself, how much is Wegovy per month? How fast are the results? Could I do this before that big wedding that I have coming up or that family reunion? Or whatever it is, or whatever little hack you see, or someone selling some stupid cortisol flush things that they're claiming. And I'm using quotations around all this, guys. I saw an ad for that just the other day, and I commented on it to get the link just because I wanted to see what they were selling, and it was hogwash. Shocker.
And now you're going to get ads for it for weeks, Christina.
I know, but I wanted to see what they were saying because I was so curious about it. So again, what we want you guys to do is we want you to have this episode in your back pocket to refer back to when you're in it and when you're having a hard time. And this is not about shame. It's about waking up to the pressure and choosing something different and noticing hey, this is happening and here's what I can do instead of falling down the spiral.
Yeah. So throughout this episode and throughout the whole summer, if you remember nothing else, just remember your body is not a summer project. That's it. We're not a little diorama that we used to make in kindergarten and elementary school, and we're trying to, fix all the different things. We are not that. And so on the episode that we talked about 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about all the different places that bikini body comes from and how diet and wellness and marketing culture plays into that. Like Christina said before, this is, yes, understanding from the logical side of things. But typically when you're having a bad body image day, it's not logically driven, it's emotionally driven. And so what we also want to talk about is where are those emotions coming from? And then how can we work with those to help get you out of the spiral instead of trying to logic your way out of that? Because why that might happen, that might help sometimes. Most of the time, in this kind of stuff, it's probably not going to be enough to get you all the way out of it.
It's a little bit more complicated than that, right?
Yeah. And so why it might be pretty easy to recognize the unveiled, the get ready for summer fitness challenges, the bikini body rhetoric that we talked about in the last episode, or the types of marketing that ramps up in May, June, July, whether it's for GLP-1s, or maybe you've seen more celebrities on social media that have been losing weight because of taking Ozempic or not claiming that they take Ozempic or whatever it is that they're doing, right? It's honestly, I think the part where this hits home the most is even in situations where no one is saying oh, I did this to get ready for summer, or I did this, or it's it's not the specific things that are hitting you in terms of the marketing for summer bodies and stuff. It's the more subtle stuff. It's when you show up to the pool or to the beach or to a wedding and you see someone that either has lost weight since the last time that you saw them, or people are getting compliments, oh my gosh, you look so good or whatever, or you're just seeing other people and you're like, their bodies haven't changed, but my body has changed and I feel bad about it. And no one else may see what's happening, but inside you're spiraling. And it's a really, really hard place to be because in the summer, when you're doing these different experiences, you're like, I should be having a really good time. But if you're panicking on the inside because you're like, what are people thinking about me? What are people saying about me? If you're thinking about all of the typically awful things that you might say to yourself in this situation, we kind of assume that other people are saying that about us as well. And even if that isn't true, which is not most of the time, sometimes it may be because there are horrible people out there. But even if that isn't true, you're having this like internal body image panic attack while the world around you just continues to spin. And when you're like, okay, you're telling me my body's not a summer project, but how do I get out of this? This is what we want to talk about now.
Yeah, I think part of it is like you do have to kind of in some ways name the noise that you're hearing, right? And saying, oh, this is my spiral. I am spiraling. And I might be spiraling for lots of different reasons. It could be this ad is making me feel like I should be doing something and I don't know why. Or it could be this internalized belief that our body exposure, there's a lot more skin showing, right? Like there's a lot more exposure. And when we have more of our body exposed, there's more to evaluate. Whether it's us internally evaluating it or we think or believe that other people are evaluating it as well. And so one of the things that happens as that goes on, we are going to feel more exposed, more vulnerable, more out there. And that is a really scary place to be. And when we feel like there are vulnerabilities or things that are being exposed that we don't want to be exposed or make us feel a certain way about ourselves, it's natural that we would feel kind of protective over those parts of ourselves that feel there's a vulnerable part or an insecurity or something that's making it difficult for us to wanting it to be seen for whatever the reasons are. It could be because we feel insecure about them and they make us feel weird, or we're like, well, society says that my thighs are not the right size. And so then therefore we internalize that as mine are not right and everyone else's is better. And then we start comparing ourselves to other people, even though no one else is saying anything. And it becomes this very much internalized experience where we can then overanalyze it to the point where it's like, this is now fact. And I need to cover up and protect that part of myself that is feeling really overwhelmed and feeling very vulnerable and feeling on display. So like, let's start with naming where the pressure comes from. Like we can just talk about that for a minute, acknowledge what that feels like. It feels like I'm going to be judged. It feels like I am showing that I didn't quote unquote take care of myself the way that other people do. Or that I fear that maybe people might think that I'm not healthy, or other things that might be coming up for you. Each person has their own little narrative that comes up, but acknowledging what that feels like is so important because once you acknowledge that, you can then move into the other phases of things. Do you want to add anything to this, Dana?
Yeah, I was going to piggyback on what you just said is like, you in the summer and at any time, you don't have to prove anything to anybody, and you don't have to explain away anything to anybody. And I think part of this ties over from the dieting days or like the food restrictive days, because you know when people are vegan, you know when people are doing Whole30, you know when people are, doing some kind of food thing. And they're like, oh, no, I'm not drinking or I'm not eating dairy or I'm not, whatever. And I think some of the over-explaining, maybe that and also people-pleasing tendencies that a lot of us have, you don't owe it to anybody to explain away your body changing or not changing. And you also don't have to prove anything to anybody. Like with what you were just saying, Christina, of you want to reassure people that like, okay, maybe my body has changed or hasn't changed, but I promise I'm still healthy. Do you want to see my blood work? You do not have to do that.
Of course
And
not.
you also, it may feel that way though.
Oh,
for
it
people.
totally does. And you feel like I think there's also that protectiveness inside you too. That's why there was this really interesting therapist that I saw on Instagram that we'll share that was talking about how comparison to others is actually from an IFS, that interfamily systems parts perspective, is that it's a protective part coming in to jump in to be like, oh, I'm going to protect that vulnerable place in yourself. And a lot of times that protective part is the one saying, oh, my thyroid's messed up. Or, oh my gosh, it was such a busy year. I didn't get to go to the gym as much as I wanted. And it's like these preemptive kind of protective statements that we say to people. So almost to justify our body, which we don't have to do that. But yet there is this knee-jerk reaction to do so in a lot of
And
places.
it makes total sense that your subconscious would lead you in that way and your conscious would lead you in that way, because nobody wants to be hurt. Nobody wants to feel worse than they already do, right? So it feels like, well, if I just have a justifiable reason for this, then I'll get like a hall pass, basically. The other thing that I wanted to go back to that I briefly mentioned on the previous episode when we were talking about the scam of summer bodies is even if you've been working on this for a while, let's say you've been working on body neutrality, body liberation, body positivity, whatever you want to call it in your version, you don't have to prove that to anybody, right? And what I mean here is you don't have to wear a bikini in order to prove to people that you're okay with your body. You don't have to wear a one piece in order to prove to people that you're okay with your body. With this, what we want for you is to be able to enjoy summer activities and activities year-round with less shame, less guilt, and being more comfortable in your body. And you should do whatever you need to do in order to go in that direction, but knowing that the lie that they're selling you of if you just take this drug or if you just do this diet, if you just lose the last X number of pounds, then it's going to be unicorns and rainbows and la la land over here. It's not going to be that way. Because like we've said multiple times, your body is not the problem. The body image is the problem. And what's constructing and shaping your body image is all of these external sources that are really jabbing into your conscious being like, no, hey, you're not good enough. You need to change your body. But if you just buy these things and this subscription model for $100 a month, then it will change you, I promise. And it's like, okay, no, can we leave this all behind? But you want what they're promising. So it's really hard not to fall for that.
I mean, and that's marketing 101, right? They tell us this all the time, talk to the pain points. So they are talking to your pain points and talking to your vulnerabilities because they want you to buy. So the next thing is like, so why is this narrative harmful for ourselves? Like, why is it harmful for us to compare ourselves? Why is it harmful for us to put this pressure on ourselves when we're in this moment and we're struggling? Like, why is this a problem? And the thing that I keep going back to is that when we once name it, then we can then ask, has this really served me before? Does this feel familiar? And has it actually made things feel worse in the long run or better in the long run? How does this work for me? What is the pattern here that I'm identifying with and that I can call out? Because ultimately, when we go into this cycle, it leads us back into our diet cycle. The exact thing that so many of us are trying to unlearn, this cycle, and it comes from this. This is the pain point, the triggering moment that happens that leads us down a dieting spiral. And that also leads us to be perpetually disconnected from our bodies. It pulls us away from being joyful and experiencing the things and being present in our experience, playing with the kids in the pool, having fun, dancing at the wedding instead of hiding in the corner, not getting in the family photos, all the things. And then you get hooked back into that shame spiral that we go through and these cycles of feeling very urgent and feeling like I have to fix this. I have to do something about this right now. Again, there's that protective part coming up, saying, do something, do something. We don't want to feel this way. Fix it. We get the ad and we're like, cha-ching, ching, and it does not fix the problem. It fixes it temporarily. And then another triggering event happens and we fall back into it. So how do we disrupt that cycle? What do we do next instead?
Can I say something controversial?
Always.
I mean, I know you're going to say yes.
Also, first of all, don't you always say something controversial? I can't believe you asked. Since when do you ask permission?
No, it's so funny. No one will get this reference, but I watched this book YouTuber who, whenever she's going to say something spicy, she's like, can I say something controversial? Can I say something vulnerable? And like, obviously, she's always going to say it. But anyway, you don't have to compliment someone's weight loss.
Oh,
You don't have
yes.
to,
Mm-hmm.
especially if you feel like, or you have experienced before, that you complimenting someone's weight loss is triggering to you. And you may be like, oh my gosh, Dana, you're making it about you. No, I'm actually not making it about me. I'm just not playing into the cultural narrative.
Mm-hmm.
If that feels really dicey to you, something to dig into. Probably in therapy.
That happened to me once with, I don't comment on people's body changes. Do not do it. Because also you never know what's going on underneath the surface and what you are feeding into or not feeding into or what have you either. And one of the main reasons why I don't comment on people's body changes is because I don't want them to think that I think they're now more worthy of compliment and love and affection and praise now that their body is smaller than it once was. And I'm not going to play into that. I had a moment, actually, this was a couple of years ago. My father-in-law hugged me and he gave me a hug and he whispered in my ear about my mother-in-law. She's lost weight. Why don't you give her a comment and tell her how proud of you are? And I'm like, I'm not going to talk about this because I don't care about what her body looks like. And that's great if she finds pride in whatever it is that whatever journey she's on, like that's totally
Go
fine.
for it.
Go for it. But I didn't say anything and I didn't say anything to her. And I'm sure he was like, Christina is a huge B for not doing anything. I have no idea, but he doesn't know. He doesn't listen to the podcast. I don't even know if he knows I have a podcast. But it was kind of funny that I was thinking to myself the whole time, like, oh no, I'm not going to do that. I understand why you are whispering that in my ear and want me to say that, but I'm not going to comment on her appearance. I'm not feeding into that narrative around women that they're worthy of praise when they look a certain way. And I'm sure as hell not going to do it in front of my kids and perpetuate that narrative on top of it in front of that. And so I think that's like another, I love that you brought up that point because it's so true, but we feel this reaction like we need to. And then also in some ways I've noticed this pattern too that people do too. It's like they'll praise someone else's body and then diss their own.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this thing like, oh, you must be doing so well. I have been horrible this year. And it's like, why are you talking about your body like this? And like, why are we perpetuating this narrative? So true.
Craziness.
Good point. Very good. Okay. So yeah, I feel like these are all the reasons why, one, we can name it and say like, what is this serving me? How is this serving me? What part of me is coming up? Is this feeling really protective? Am I feeling vulnerable? And so I'm feeling this urgency to fix this hard feeling that I'm feeling, this shame that I might be feeling, these things that I might be feeling, and all of these things that we just talked about. And then what is it reinforcing? What do I want to perpetuate that? Do I want to perpetuate weight stigma? Do I want to perpetuate the moralization of health? Do I want to perpetuate the idea that certain bodies are more worthy than others for the summer? Do I want to perpetuate this idea that we need to look a certain way in order to get praise and love and affection and all of the things? And if the answer is no, you don't, then what do we do instead? What do we do with all of these feelings while we're feeling them so that we don't get hooked back into the cycle of shame and urgency and kind of going through this whole thing, and then our bank accounts dwindle as the more products we purchase? And how do we work through that? How do we get out of that cycle?
Yes. So first, with clothing, revealing or not, whatever, wear what you find comfortable for you. This probably means stuff where you're not going to sweat like crazy because it's really hot outside. But again, it doesn't mean that you have to wear a bikini or something you feel that is revealing for you, because it's the easiest way to be body critical is to wear something that doesn't feel comfortable for you or that is ill-fitting for you, whether it's too tight in the waist or it's digging into your bra line or whatever, right? It doesn't matter. What you can define comfortable or uncomfortable however you'd like to. But the more revealing something is in general, the more body critical you're going to be because there's more stuff to think about when there's more stuff outside.
Totally.
So think about that. Another thing to think about is anytime that something comes across your feed that makes you feel like you should be doing something or you're not good enough or anything like that, delete, unsubscribe, mute, restrict, whatever social or email or whatever you're on. You don't have to participate in that. Even if it's in your inbox, it's, oh, okay, this is not for me at this season of my life. We unsubscribe, we send to spam, we whatever. In terms of self-talk, name it. Like Christina was saying before, recognize that you're in the spiral. Hello, I'm spiraling. Oh my God. That sometimes can be enough to be like, whoa, that was a thought. Or like, whoa, that was a really intrusive thought. I took that one. I rode the whole train of that one. And now we're back to our centered place or semi-centered place, maybe. And thinking about
leading towards neutrality a little bit more.
Yeah, and trying to practice neutrality of like, this is the body that I have today. I'm allowed to enjoy this season of summer, this year, this month, this day, this event, whatever, no matter what my body looks like. And you don't have to explain it. You don't have to prove it. Again, it doesn't have to be, this is the body I have today. I'm allowed to enjoy this season, even though I gained weight, even though I'm in my luteal phase, even though I'm bloated, even though I'm whatever. Leave out that last phrase. You don't need it. You don't need the explainer on the end of it. It just is how it is today.
Yeah. One thing I was thinking about is when you said like deleting the email or muting the person, that to me feels like it feels so small and inconsequential. Like, okay, so I'm just deleting this email, whatever. But I got to tell you, it is liberating. And it almost feels like this small, like a really actionable, easy to execute thing to protect your own peace. And
because then you're not going to see it when it comes up again.
I know. What's nice is it's like as if like you're just kind of taking the laptop, closing it, and then pushing it off to the side and being like, that's not for me. And you know what? That belief that that little small act of rebellion, like it's called rebellion, like that little small act of rebellion of saying, I'm not listening to this, or I'm not going to let them talk to me like this, is really empowering, and it reinforces even in the smallest of ways. It reinforces for yourself this level of self-respect and love for you and that act of towards neutrality of I'm not going to let them do this. And that feels small, but it garners huge results. I just want to put that out there. And it is really easy to just be like, and delete it. And to move, and you'll see how quickly you're able to move through this cycle a lot faster if you delete, mute, or just keep scrolling.
Well, you're taking away different trigger points. I mean, what's the point in continuing to allow things to come into your feed, things that you can actually opt out of? When you go to the pool, when you go to events or whatever, you can't stop people from talking about that kind of stuff. They're going to talk about whatever they want to talk about. But there's an option here of unsubscribe. And that's not to say, like, listen, if you don't unsubscribe and then it comes up again, we don't want you to be like, oh my God, now it's my fault. No, absolutely not.
Silly. Don't be
but
silly.
I feel like we need to add that disclaimer because, in functional medicine, they're like, well, if you don't do what we say, now it's your fault. Okay, let's quiet that noise.
No.
But the last thing that I'll say here is even though we've been giving you these different tools, we want to normalize that these thoughts are probably still going to come up. Okay? That is totally normal. It's almost expected. Because how could you not?
Yeah.
And so when the thoughts, not if, but when the thoughts continue to come up, you can always come back to this pep talk. We'll link the other body image focus support episodes. If this is really impactful for you, you can share it with a friend. Sometimes it's hard to share this kind of stuff, right? We know, because it's almost like admitting to your friend that, like, I have body image struggles. And they're like, do you too? It's almost like you want to whisper it into the void, be like, who's going to come help me with this? Sorry if you hated that ASMR. But if you have friends or anyone in your life who you think that this might be helpful for, share it with them or talk about it with them, because that's a way to expand your safety bubble that, like we talked about in the last episode. Who are the friends that you can go to talk about this stuff? Because it's really important to have anybody to talk about this with when you're living in a sea of people that aren't typically on this page.
Yeah, totally. I think one of the things too that I am thinking about as we kind of wrap up and show ourselves a little bit more compassion as we move through this, and that's the summary of what Dana's talking about here, is the compassion and having a place to reflect and talk about it and feel safe in sharing these vulnerabilities with. One thing that I say to a lot of my clients with eating disorders, and this goes to really anybody, but one of the things that I talk to them about when we're working through new behavior change, and that's what this is. This is behavior change. And there's a fear around disrupting a cycle, right? Because in some ways, a cycle feels very protective, right? It feels we're used to that cycle. We're used to doing this thing. This is what we do. This vulnerability comes up. We do an action plan. It makes us feel better. We create our to-do list. We're going to do all the things, and it makes us feel more secure, and it makes us feel better. And to disrupt that is scary. To disrupt that feels like if I don't do this, then the whole world is going to fall apart and everything's going to go wrong. And one of the things that I say to my clients when we're working through our eating disorder treatment, and it is just as applicable here, is I will say, what happened after? And they'll usually say, nothing. And I said, and I usually say back to them, and the world kept turning, right? Because it feels like the world is going to stop turning, but really it doesn't. You can disrupt this cycle by just doing something a little bit different, even if it's just deleting the email, which feels silly, but is ultimately, like I said, brings a lot. But the world will still turn. It will still turn, and all we're doing here is disrupting a pattern that you've been doing for a really long time. And you can do this. We know you can. And we're here.
Yeah, we're here. And if you want even more support on this, we released a bonus episode last week that's all about rerouting negative thoughts, specifically around body image in the summer. And so that will be linked in the show notes. Oh, I guess summer update, last thing. We still have episodes coming in July. Last year, we didn't do episodes in July on the main feed. This year, we do. We have some special stuff coming your way. So we're still going to have episodes in July. August, we'll be on a little bit of a summer break, and then we'll be back in the fall. So you have a couple more episodes to look forward to. Okay, bye.
Bye.